Greetings and welcome to our training for the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness Point in Time Count, led by the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida. We're excited that you decided to volunteer for this year's count. Over the course of this training, you will hear from different stakeholders in the Commission on Homelessness, as well as from those with lived experience. We're hopeful that watching this brief video will provide you with the tools needed to go out and survey on the days of the count. There are 4 simple goals of the point-in-time count, or the PIT count. Conduct the most complete and accurate count possible. Provide an estimate that accurately reflects the unsheltered homeless population in our community. Bring awareness and build knowledge of the unsheltered homeless population in our community for local planning efforts and community support. Collect valuable data for federal government and grant applications. Who are we counting during the PIT count? We are counting those experiencing unsheltered homelessness in Osceola, Seminole, and Orange County. These are people with living situations that are unfit for human habitation. This includes the woods, parks, cars, or the street. How will volunteers help? Volunteers like yourself are imperative ensuring that we have the capacity to survey the entire Tri-County to make sure that no person experiencing homelessness is unaccounted for. During the PIT count, you will either go out into the community with a designated team lead to survey people, which we refer to as canvassing, or you will conduct surveys at a single location where people experiencing homelessness receive services, such as a drop-in site. We call this site-based volunteering. In order to be ready to hit the ground running on the day of the PIT count, we ask that you watch this brief video. In the next few minutes, you will learn the following: what to expect day of for the PIT, tips for engaging different subpopulations, and how to use our electronic survey. What to expect the day of the PIT count. The vast majority of you will be conducting surveys out in the community. If you are going to be based at a specific service site for site-based volunteering, you will have already been made aware of this. If you have not explicitly been told by us that you've been assigned to stay at a specific site, you should assume you will be out canvassing, even if you signed up for having your launch site at a popular service site, such as Samaritan Resource Center or Pathlight Homes. So you'll want to dress comfortably to walk outside. If you purchased a PIT count shirt, wear it, and no worries if you didn't. If you have a navy blue t-shirt, you can wear that instead. This will help us be recognizable to the folks we approach. We ask that you report to your service site or launch site 10 minutes prior to the start of your shift. Your launch site is the location you selected for your volunteer slot. Once arriving at the site, please ask for the launch site coordinator, if it's not immediately evident upon arrival. The launch site coordinator will ensure that you are signed in, and for those headed out to canvass, will assign you to a specific team lead who will be guiding your team during your volunteer shift. The team leads are people who have previously participated in several PIT counts, or they work as street outreach. They are there to answer your questions, guide what area you will be surveying, and provide your team with any support throughout the shift. Teams headed out to canvass will be composed of a total of 3 to 4 people. If this is not your first PIT count, you will note that this team size is smaller than in years prior. This is based on community feedback we received, that it can be overwhelming and intimidating to our community members who are being surveyed when a large group of people show up to try and conduct surveys at once. If you intended to volunteer with one other person, the launch site coordinators will do their best to accommodate these wishes, but it is not guaranteed. Each team will have a designated driver, and your team will travel in one vehicle. In many instances, the designated driver will be the team lead, but there are some situations in which we will need a volunteer, such as yourself, to be the driver. The launch site coordinator will help ensure that every group has a designated driver. Another thing that is different this year is that we are assigning teams that will be out canvassing to specific zones to ensure that we cover the entire Tri-County area. And when we say zones, we just mean an area of the county that your team will cover. Understandably, every zone is different. Some zones are urban, others are much more rural. Some zones have a lot of known unsheltered homelessness, and some have little to no known unsheltered homelessness. Given this, there's a chance that you may end up not surveying anyone during your shift. It may also mean you spend a lot of time in the car with your team, rather than walking around. This does not mean your time was not well spent. It is imperative that we cover all of Central Florida so that we don't miss anyone, and volunteers like you allow us to do this. Please make sure to bring your ID and a phone or tablet with cellular data since the survey is done online. This year, we are trying out a new tracking feature so we can view on a map exactly where teams have gone. Since the website must be open at all times, your team lead may ask you to help out by keeping it open on your personal device. So if you have a portable phone charger, please bring it. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, you can absolutely decline. Finally, you may want to bring a small bag with a bottle of water or snack for yourself. Here are some general tips to remember when engaging anyone during the pit count. Make sure to approach in a friendly manner and with compassion. Announce yourself from a distance. Lead the conversation without judgment. Be direct and honest about your intentions. Be mindful of personal space and exits. Remove items that cause noises, like keys for example. Wear your pit count t-shirt or a navy blue shirt, and closed-toe shoes. Enter spaces with 1 to 2 additional people only. Don't force answers from people who don't want to participate in the survey. And don't pet any animals that you may meet. They could be service animals or reactive. And finally, conduct the survey in the neighbor's preferred language. During the course of conducting surveys, you may meet someone who has a preferred language other than English. If you have a team member who speaks the preferred language, great. Utilize them for assistance with translating the survey. If you do not have a team member who speaks the language, we will have some on-call translators who will be able to assist with completing surveys over the phone. Your team lead will have the information for this translator. If a translator is not available, please use a language translation app or website such as Google Translate. Here are some safety tips. Make sure to know your team lead's name and have their cell phone number. Make sure to carry an ID on you. Leave your personal belongings behind, like jewelry, purses, etc. Stay within eyesight of your teammates. Never offer rides, money, or your personal information to anyone. If you are a direct service worker, you can provide your business card as an option for them to reconnect. And finally, empathy is always your best bet. For us, your comfort is the top priority. So if there's anything you need, your team lead is there for you. If at any point you feel unsafe, please let your team lead know. You will aim to return to your launch site 30 minutes prior to the shift ending. This will allow time for your team lead to report to the launch site coordinator how the shift went and how much of your zone your team was able to cover. Tracking your team's activity on the map will help inform this conversation. Once you're back, you're free to go, knowing your help was key in a successful pit count. Now that you have a general idea of what to expect on the day of the count, we're going to review some of the different neighbors you may meet while surveying, and things to be considerate of while counting. The first is neighbors with mental health disorders. You may meet neighbors who you believe may have a mental health diagnosis. First and most important, lead with respect and curiosity. You don't need to diagnose, fix, or figure anything out. Your role is simply to connect and listen. If someone seems distracted, anxious, or responds in a way that feels unexpected, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means they're having a human moment. Speak calmly, keep your body language open, and give people space, both physically and emotionally. People may need time to think about how to answer the questions, and that is absolutely okay. Please allow some time for silence if they do not respond right away. Afford them some time to think before asking the question again. Don't assume their silence means they don't want to answer. Be sure to use person-first language, like a person experiencing, rather than labels. Ask questions exactly as they're written, and if someone doesn't want to participate, that's okay. Thank them for their time and move on. Most of all, remember, how you make someone feel in this brief interaction matters more than getting every question answered. Kindness, patience, and respect go a long way. While you are out surveying, your team may encounter people living in encampments or tents. Your team lead will greet them first and let you know when to approach, so you don't need to worry about that part. We just wanted to share a few additional tips to make sure everyone feels safe and comfortable. When you are approaching the camp with your team, make sure not to speak too loudly or make too much noise. You don't want to unintentionally scare anyone. As you enter the space where the encampment is located, try to stay on pre-existing paths when possible. You don't want to trip on anything or step on someone's things. Also be aware of dogs that are not on leashes. While you're talking to folks, try not to block the exit of their space. Also be sure not to touch anyone's personal belongings or try to open someone's tent to see if they're inside. It's important to respect their space and privacy. For this reason, we also ask that you do not take any photos of the camp.
When you encounter a neighbor who's a veteran, remember that this population tends to be more sensitive to large groups. So when you approach, try to approach with groups of 2 or 3. They also have a tendency to not be not like loud noises and banging because of a lot of experiences being in the environment that they're currently living in. A lot of that stuff is unpredictable and it affects them. Be mindful of where you're stepping. What appears to be trash to one may be a prized possession to another. Just because it looks like a piece of paper or a balled up wad to the side doesn't necessarily mean that's what it is. Because again, these people don't have a lot, and where you're living is their home. So it's the equivalency of being in their living room. Remember, when you approach, your body language is vital because 80% of what you say does not come out of your mouth. Have a relaxed body position or body posture. Remember not to block somebody off or stand in front of them with your arms crossed. Try to make sure you leave space between you and them and allow them to always see the exit, because then they know that you're not blocking them in there, especially when there's multiple people with them. If you notice somebody sitting down when you walk in, try and crouch down near them, but don't sit and expose yourself as well, because you don't want to be standing over somebody, looking down to them, talking to them, offering assistance.
In addition to these tips, if you're out counting and the respondent indicates that they are a veteran and unsheltered, we want to ensure that they are connected to the VA, if they'd like to be. At the end of the survey, ask the veteran if they are okay with you calling our point of contact at the VA on their behalf, to make sure that they are being considered for all benefits available to them as a veteran. Explain that if they agree, you'll call our VA contact and the veteran will be able to have a conversation with them over the phone to determine eligibility and connect them to resources. Our contact at the VA is Stephanie Mole. Stephanie's phone number is 407-319-8735. Again, that's 407-319-8735. As a reminder, what we're asking of the volunteer is that in the event that they encounter someone who identifies as a veteran and is unsheltered, that they call Stephanie after completing the survey. What we do not want is for volunteers to simply pass Stephanie's number along to survey participants.
When engaging an individual who identifies as a youth and young adult, you want to consider that this population may not look like the stereotypical image of homelessness. Their age range is 16 to 24 years old, and they may ask questions about the purpose of the count. This is where you can use your frequently asked questions one pager. And always approach in a friendly manner and be casual in the approach as well.
Lastly, we are going to review the software that we will use to conduct the actual surveys and some general tips on the survey.
The first thing to do is go to pitcounter.com. When you go to pitcounter.com, you're going to come to this screen where it's going to ask you for a code. You'll get this from the people organizing your pit count. Then it's going to ask you for your name and phone number. It's only there so that they can reach out to you in the case that there's an issue. Once you log in, you'll come to a screen like this. There's a map that will show your current location and an outline of the COC or the region that you're responsible for surveying. And you can see where you're currently located, just to make sure you don't go outside. On the Settings tab, you could also update the survey code, but this is the main screen you're concerned with. When you're ready to survey someone, just click Start Survey, then click Continue for Share Your Location. It might take a second. Then this custom location field you can mostly ignore. If you do want to include additional information like a landmark where you are, you can click this and then, or tap it and fill out the custom location, but most of the time you won't have to worry about it. When you're ready, click Start. At this point, you're going to fill out the questions by asking the person you're surveying and filling them out each time. Sometimes the survey will end early. So this question, have you completed the survey earlier today? If you say yes, and then click here and then click next, it's going to immediately exit because we don't want to include duplicate information. So don't be thrown off if something like that happens. So another thing that you'll see is sometimes additional questions will appear. So if I say jail, hospital, or treatment program, then it's going to ask me a follow-up question. Again, don't get thrown off by that. That's everything working fine. This is an important question, and it's kind of special. What it says is complete the following information for each other person in the household. Click Add New at the bottom to add a new person. So when you click that, it's going to pop up a bunch of additional questions, and that's for each member of the household that's not the head of household. So if one person is with 2 or 3 other people, you should click this for each additional person and fill out all the answers. And then the last part has some notes for any additional information you want to fill out. When you're done, you click Complete. You should get a notification that says Upload Successful, and then you should see a past survey here listed with a check mark. If you see something else, like an X, that means that the survey hasn't been uploaded yet.
Here are the steps to follow to complete the survey. First is to introduce yourself following the sample script on the website. Next is asking the participant, have you been surveyed this week? And if you don't mind, can I ask where you stayed last night? If their housing situation sounds precarious or uncertain, continue with the survey. If the respondent refuses to, don't coerce them. Let them know that they can decline answering any question or the whole survey at any time. If a respondent stops midway through, but you have confirmed the person is unhoused and unduplicated, stop the survey but submit the information you have. Then end the conversation by thanking them for their time. Some reminders while you're doing the pit count. You can proceed without a name, but you can also ask for nicknames or initials. You can proceed without a full name if they refuse, but you do need an age as well. Skip questions if the person is uncomfortable answering, and mark the question as DK for don't know or REF. Politely end the survey if you feel uncomfortable or threatened. Thanks, that's all I have for now is an example of a disengagement phrase. Be mindful of the time and gently refocus and continue the survey if you get deep into conversation. And be ready to read the full list of possible responses to each question if needed. Accept responses at face value. Don't question the validity of someone's answers.
In years prior, we've been able to provide an additional video walking you through the questions that would be on that year's survey. The questions on the survey are a combination of questions from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and questions that our local community wants us to collect. At the time of the production of this training, the questions have not yet been finalized. As such, this year, this is the only training video for Pit Count. So, on behalf of the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida and the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness, we thank you so much for watching this training and for volunteering for the Pit Count. We could not do it without you.